let's go ahead and welcome up our first reader. I thought it would be nice if we started tonight with our multi-genre reading. This writer has been described by friends as cool as a cucumber. He has the kind of charm that makes you feel happy and centered just by sitting next to him. Let's welcome Master of Arts, Kevin Sebastian.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Carly, for that generous introduction, and thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. So I'm deeply grateful and deeply honored for being included in tonight's roster of readers. Carrie Ann had told me to keep the preamble short, so I will read a nonfiction piece that I wrote in response to a writer that we read in my art theory class. So, okay, thank you. March 17, 1521. The Habagat winds, westerly blowing, finally deposit Ferdinand Magellan, that Portuguese explorer who sold himself to Spain upon the shores of the Philippines, discovering the archipelago. My friend and I wrestle with the word discover, for as Magellan was to find out, the only true things he was to discover was the sharp metal and even sharper aim of Lapu-Lapu handling his sibat. We talk about this in a language now peppered with Spanish words, appreciating how even now we feel the white man's tite. And we relish this word not only because of its alliterative Tagalogness, but also because as queers, we appreciate even just mouthing our word for penis. We feel it still penetrating our very beings as being born of a country named after a Spanish king. Oh, what name would we have so that instead of Filipinos, we are otherwise named and otherwise are able to bear our brownness without shame. But my friend, shading me in other ways, remarks that you aren't even brown. Yes, you aren't Filipino and you aren't even brown. And you introduced yourself with a firm handshake, and I introduced myself as brown even before shaking your hand. But you stuck around to discover me, though not in the way that Magellan did his discovering, or maybe I stuck around to have myself be found. Before we set out on these frontiers of discovery, I wasn't even entirely sure you or I would understand how different the fabrics of our lives are. Sure, you had your faculty diversity workshops and I, my skin and my books, but you are nonetheless descended from the Bayou tapestry, and I a hand-woven malong. And yet, how frighteningly similar too. When I told you that I number among 10% of the adult population who have retained a baby tooth because no permanent tooth exists underneath it, you smile and show me the empty space in your gums where yours was extracted, in the same exact space where mine now degrades. Whenever I speak and you listen, and whenever you speak and I listen, I have a sense that our breaths mingle in some special way. They follow the same path passing through the same calcium cobblestone, but my path, still bearing its marker, is further in time. Words are good enough, Maggie Nelson says. Although, like Nelson, I still worry that there are times when they aren't, especially when donning and doffing our shared tongue feel more natural to me than never taking off this stars and stripes mantle expected of me when I sound American. But I don't always sound American. And so I worry that my words are not good enough for your ears. And so there are things between us that exist in the gaps outlined by our respective social realities, your always Americanness and my sometimes Americanness. We often try to express these things living in the gaps through words that only tangentially glance at, coquettishly hint at, and tragically miss the substances of our emotional antimatter. And so I use adverbs. Or I gesture widely or wildly enough for your benefit. But the beauty of words finds its origin in their inadequacy, or maybe in their enoughness. An enoughness that by virtue of the kaleidoscope of meaning afforded by our universe of words proves infinite. But for when plain words are not enough, we fill the gaps with I love you. And when even that is not enough, we play subdued symphonies by breathing sometimes gently, sometimes tempest-like into the echo chambers of our mouths, each orchestral season different as my tooth slowly disappears, altering the pitch and fever of our music. And once it does, and with it enough time passing, harmony. Thank you.